watching for a Pentagon briefing to begin in a few minutes. We expect to hear more details on President Obama's plan to send up to 17,000 more U.S. troops to Afghanistan. They want to battle the growing Taliban. Real problem there.
Well, in fact, they're talking about sending 8,000 Marines from North Carolina's Camp Lejeune, as well as another 4,000 troops from Washington's Fort Lewis. And those folks would be sent in the next several months. Later this spring is the talk. The president spoke on Canadian TV about the goal once those potentially 12 to 17,000 troops arrive. Take a listen to what the president had to say.
What do you think?
Well, I think Afghanistan is still winnable in the sense of our ability to ensure that it is not a launching pad for attacks against North America. I think it's still possible for us to stamp out al-Qaeda, to make sure that extremism is not expanding, but it rather is contracting.
Jon Soltz is a Iraqi vet, as well as chairman of votevets.org, and he's here today to talk about the president's announcement. John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So John, the idea of increasing the number of troops in Afghanistan, potentially 12 to 17,000 over the next several months, good idea, bad idea in your mind?
Well, we think it's a great idea. Obviously, our organization, votevets.org, has been hammering the Bush administration for the last 4 or 5 years of keeping 10 times the amount of troops in Iraq as Afghanistan. But I think we should be clear about what our organization feels and what the new administration and President Obama feels. No one thinks adding more troops is going to be the answer in Afghanistan. The question is it a part of the answer? And the administration is going through a strategic review. And these are troops that have been asked for by General McKiernan over the last year and basically haven't been able to get into the theater because of Iraq.
Richard Engel has been doing some great reports for NBC News from Afghanistan. It's really concerning that now, if you get outside Kabul, it appears your life is really in danger. And even in Kabul, the issues with acid being thrown on little girls going to school, or the recurrence now of the Taliban and poppy growing. Do you think that there's a way for the military to innovate and try a different approach in coaxing Afghan people to support democracy, the rule of law, an end to the criminality of the Taliban era?
I'm not sure that's the role of the military, and I think that this new administration feels that. The role of the military is to provide basic security. And when you provide basic security to the civilians on the ground, it allows you then to bring in economic support, agriculture support, and these other types of things. We've never had a diplomatic, political, and military combined strategy in Afghanistan. We did the war on the cheap. We outsourced the capture of bin Laden to essentially Afghan warlords, and he got away. So I think we're going to see a new approach, and we're supporting this administration and their efforts for that.
John, so let me talk about a major critique, which you hear from people. They say, even though we know that Afghan is the central front, and we know that there should be an effort there, they're worried that it's been a stubborn place for all sorts of armies over the years, including the Soviet Union. So you hear people say, if the Soviet Union had 10 years to go at the Afghans, didn't have to worry about getting public support to support it back home, and they didn't succeed, how in the world are we going to send our own more good troops, if you will, in the harm's way?
It's a completely different conflict. I mean, the reason the Soviets failed in Afghanistan was largely because of the United States and our CIA and special forces hammering the Soviet Union. But also you have to look at our ability inside Afghanistan and why we're even there and what our goals are. And I think you heard the president on the lead-in talk about our job is to go after al-Qaeda and to establish an Afghan government, not to take over the country and rule it.
But to that point, John, are you saying that you think the 17,000 troop increase can help solve the problem, or do you really think that this is just to buy the president enough time to figure out a longer-term strategy?
It can be both. Look, you're sending a Marine regiment from Camp Lejeune and the Stryker Brigade from Fort Lewis. That's 2 combat brigades. That's almost doubling the amount of combat brigades that are on the ground right now of American troops. So I think it's part of the larger answer, and it does buy the president time for his overall strategy review.
But the experts talk about how important, say, an agriculture expert would be in turning things around in Afghanistan. Can the military provide that? Is there any agriculture expert that's attached with our U.S. military?
Look, we have limited civil affairs capacity that's grown in the last 7 years. Civil affairs units, our Guard and Reserve units, actually Army Reserve completely. So no, active component combat units don't have that. This is the point. When I, as a young officer, go and talk to a village leader, how can I get them to agree with me to work with the American military and security when I leave that night and I'm relying on air power to secure the region when the Taliban and al-Qaeda can come in that night and kill a civilian, as you reported? So the basic security element in providing that is what will allow some of these experts to come in and work with this. And I think that we've really got to show the Pakistanis that we're willing to make a commitment here if we're going to neutralize their support for the Taliban.
Hey, John, final thought here. Andrea Mitchell reported on something I thought was mind-blowing this week, which was the possibility that the Obama administration will get Iran to become an ally in the difficult Pakistan-Afghanistan battle. Have you heard a lot about that? And if so, how could that change our need for putting more American troops in there?
Look, in this region, I think we saw this in Iraq with the Sunni awakening. You take a friend where you can get it, and the situation between the Taliban and Al Qaeda in Iran was bad. I mean, they basically almost went to war prior to 9/11. So I think you look for friends where you can get them at a political level. We have not seen that as warfighters on the ground and since before the Bush administration.
Strange bedfellows.
Jon, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thanks,
We appreciate it.